The author has asked to remain anonymous. I live in a small town nested around 20 minutes from Manhattan. I have lived in this town since 2009, which is not that long compared to the majority of others in my community. Even though this is a small town, it doesn't have that small town vibe. I credit this to it being next to other larger towns. We don't have a high school, so the kids go to a town over. But in our town, everyone does know everyone. Being in a small town and add the socioeconomic status, close to nothing happens. Since I've lived here, there's been practically nothing. There was someone who tried to rob a house, but they saw the owner and ran away. But there was always one thing that I never understood. Once I was playing football with my friends, and they're at school one Saturday with some other friends. You could see a cell phone tower from the main field, and you could see a water tower at other angles. One of my friends asked about the boy who fell over the water tower a long time ago. My friend's dad went silent, and he got this look on his face. He really beat around the bush, but eventually they agreed that we leave it at that. It came up a few more times throughout the years, but it always comes to the conclusion that a boy made a bad decision and fell off the water tower. A few weeks ago, I went on a walk with my dad on a trail in the woods. Where I come from, you get a taste of city and nature relatively easily. When I go places, I often drive through a wooded area which is referred to as the reservation. There are a few trails throughout the reservation, but there was always one that interested me in particular. It had a parking lot with a trail. It's surrounded by trees. It looked the best when it's foggy. So when my dad and I went to the trail, it was very foggy. The gloomy effect made the tower look amazing. I don't have a photo of a tower with the fog, but I have a photo of the trail leading to it. And this is where my inspiration comes from. I asked around. It seems to be well known in my town. One of my teachers that's been in my town before my parents were alive, and some of my friends told me the real story. I gathered that the murder was even more horrendous than I ever thought it would be. It turns out that a boy, Greg Sanders, around my age, killed his parents, and then jumped off the water tower. I went there, and I didn't even know what took place there. Even though I had some trusted sources, I decided to look online during study hall that day. I found just what I was looking for, and even more. I found a site that shocked me. It was a website dedicated to people visiting the water tower, what's been nicknamed Suicide Tower. I learned that in my small little town, there's a paranormal tourist attraction. And then I found out what really happened. Here's a snippet of it from the top of the webpage. The story of the Suicide Tower goes like this. On January 15, 1976, Greg Sanders, 15, of Hillside, New Jersey, murdered both his parents with an axe, slashed his own wrist, and jumped from the water tower to his death. No clear motive for either of the murders or his suicide were discovered. Some, however, believe that he killed his parents to save them the despair of his suicide. This simply shocked me. I scrolled down to the comments. One of them should freak out anyone. It was Mountainside, New Jersey, not Hillside. He was my neighbor, and I rode on the school bus with him for a few years. Seemed normal. This boy did such a horrible thing, and the kid seemed normal. This poor boy must have been so desperate to end his life. It's widely believed that Greg Sanders killed his parents to save them from the sorrow of his death. But this is not all that I found. I found an old newspaper article with a statement from the police chief at the time. This is what it read. The first parent to fall was the boy, Greg's father. He knocked over his chair and then staggered through the living room towards the kitchen. As he tried to get away, the boy chased him, hitting him with an axe the whole time. The man finally collapsed in the kitchen. He had been hit 8 or 9 times. Former police chief Mullen said, it was only speculated that Greg killed his mother when she came downstairs later. Like I said, there were no warning signs at all. The one person said seemed normal. The article also said that Greg was an honor student, and his suicide letter titled, "To Whom It May Concern." Greg Sanders claimed responsibility of the double homicide. He also expressed heartbreak to his deeds. The article stated, Mullen said neighbors did not hear any unusual noises or screaming. The tragic event struck my community by surprise. No one could ever see this coming, and if anything was to happen, no one could have suspected that this kid could have done what he did. The Ludington Daily asked school officials, and they said Greg was well liked by his teachers and pupils. A little while after 9 p.m. that night, after handwriting his suicide letter, after slitting his wrist, Greg Sanders fell 150 feet to his death. He was found by the police in my small town 4 days later. It was completely unknown to others that there was a problem, and because of that, there could be no aid. Former County General Peter McCord stated, "If there was a problem, it was only known by the parents." I started this investigation to see what really happened in my small town. I ended up coming to the same conclusion that I had known for a while now. Even a family that had the resources to help their son. It proves how tedious and stigmatized the United States' mental health care system really is, and how it has not changed.